should let your audience know if I sound bad, that's normal.
They're used to my bad audio, so for them that's just normal. Awesome. Right? Awesome. All right. So welcome in everybody. Happy New Year, first stream of the year. So yeah, with that, the idea here is we're just going to start talking about what's to come in 2024, our impressions of it, and we're going to start with watching the second half of the ISC video, shipping out, which they do a great job of just talking about the first half and everything that they're excited for. So that's typically something we should be excited for. So with that,
yeah,
let's swap on over and look at Jared. I love Jared.
he's
I think
at
I'm
Disney
gonna
World right now.
really.
Yeah, he's spent at least a week that I know about. He's going to be down in Disney World for a week.
Lucky him. I haven't been to Disney World in like, I'm not gonna say how long. Anyways, let's watch this. All right, here's Jared. And so this is the second part. It's not that long. Let me just slowly go back a little bit. Let me make sure this audio is up. And let's do
Looking
a quick
back at everything that's
test.
happened the last
Awesome.
12 months
All right,
and
here we
reliving some
go.
of our favorite moments. And, well, look, 2023 was good. Great even if you gloss over that little rough patch in the middle there. But heading into the new year, all that I can really think about is everything that's on the horizon that's about to make 2024 the biggest and baddest year of our project yet. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to indulge myself, maybe switch out my CIG cap and put my backer hat on and tell you what has me excited about this next
I
year
love
for the
that.
Persistent
Yeah,
Universe in a segment
it's
that
great.
I'm calling Disco Lando's Star Citizen 2020 Forecast. Now, without talking specific dates, let's discuss what's being targeted
More
and currently
fonts.
on track for release in just the first half of 2024, starting with Master Modes, the new
Master
way to
modes.
pilot and operate ships we've been discussing since CitizenCon 2952. Now, whether that's every ship or a staggered rollout of groups of vehicles depends on how work progresses, but it's a major change to the way spaceships operate in the Persistent Universe, and you can be sure that we'll update on it more when the time comes. And of course, when your ships aren't in flight, they can be stored in the newly persistent hangars that are arriving with freight elevators, freight kiosks, and the new cargo transaction system that we've shared on both ISC and this year's CitizenCon. Now, all combined, they form the next major evolution of cargo careers and will also have far-reaching, broader implications for the entire Star Citizen experience. And then outside of vehicles and hangars, there's also a variety of FPS combat improvements coming to the first half of 2024, with improvements to reloading, the weapon wear and misfire system, scopes and dynamic crosshairs and charge and drain, and even more we'll be able to show you once we return in the new year. And then outside of strictly FPS combat, there are new player character features coming, like the updates to the EVA system, the visor and lens system, loot screens, default item interactions in the personal interaction system, and there's even new shopping and mission apps in development now. And while we're talking about apps, the first half of 2024 is also currently scheduled to see the arrival of our new character customizer with things like tattoos, piercings, scars, and yes, Virginia, it's true, beards. And as for how many and of what kind, only Andre knows for sure, but you can bet we're gonna ask him sometime around March. And then, of course, if you're in-game, there's also a little thing called Mobiglass and an awfully big thing called Star Map. They're both getting their big updates in the first half of next year. And have I mentioned those enormous distribution centers that'll be the new microcosm homes for every gameplay and mission feature that exists in Star Citizen, as well as the 4, 5, 6, let's just say several new and updated vehicles that are making their way to the Persistent Universe in just the first 6 months of 2024? I did, just now. Now you can check those off. Whew. Okay, so real talk. CIG hat back on. Now, you're probably looking at your screen and saying to yourself, what about Pyro and 4.0? Well, don't fret. The things that we just covered are those that aren't too dependent on continuing foundational tech work like server meshing. So we feel pretty confident in targeting everything that we just shared for the first 6 months. But when it comes to something as enormous as the complete Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, well, that's where the new preview channel comes into play. Now that said, Alpha 4.0 is currently targeting a summer 2024 release, but that won't mean that you have to wait until then to play it or learn more about it. That's because in 2024, we'll continue doing playtests like the one we just completed, and you'll be able to follow along with its development firsthand on the preview channel. That's the planets, moons, space stations, settlements, and outlaw lifestyle that comes within the Pyro system, but also an entire host of additional new features, content, and quality of life improvements like, fully functional jump points, the new quantum travel system, new vehicle HUD and MFD work, resource management, hacking, and much, much more, all being worked on in tandem. The preview channel will let you and us test 4.0 together while maintaining the stability of the persistent universe with all those other great additions we just discussed. And then, in the summer of 2024, two become one, and we can avoid that thing that didn't quite go the way that we'd hoped.
The holiday live stream?
No, I think he's talking about 3.18. But all right, so that's pretty much everything they had to say about what comes up in 2024.
Yeah.
Boop. And yeah, so I mean, obviously one of the big things that we saw at CitizenCon that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, and I think we've already started to see, we've seen a lot of what's it called? Previews of and stuff like that is, the new Star Engine, which is also scheduled to come in around that time. And I think the only thing we've seen so far from that is the hair, which is amazing. Let's be honest. The hair looks great.
Hair, and I think we're also starting to see some of it in the derelict outposts.
Yes.
I think
New
both.
assets. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, there's new assets, there's new renders, which I think is part of the reason that they kind of dropped frames, is because they're still figuring out how to render it on the current. I don't know. It seems like that's part of the problem, but also part of the solution. So I'm cool with it.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that the biggest thing we heard here, obviously, was Pyro, summer 2024. No longer, beginning, which I'm not that
Yeah.
upset with. I am upset.
No.
I was disappointed, but I understand and I still support it, I guess is what I should say.
We're so okay. Here's the problem. In this episode, in that clip that we just watched,
Yeah.
Jared does this thing where he says, "Normally I would do X, Y, and Z, but if you don't mind, I'm not going to."
Exactly.
Obviously, I think it was obvious. Obviously, he did that because he wasn't prepared for any of those things he normally does. Because there's prep work. Like, he does those big summaries, he does those recaps. There's prep work involved in that. I don't think he had time to do it. I don't maybe he didn't have time to do it. Maybe the teams weren't ready to give him information. Who knows? To me, we're getting subliminal forecasting here because he didn't have time to do that. Most people didn't notice. We finished 2023 without a message from the chairman. We finished 2023 without a financial recap. I think they're just behind. I think they are ridiculously overwhelmed. They're not doing their typical end of year stuff because they've got other crap going on. I don't know how true any of these timelines are going to be.
Right. Do you think that potentially that has to do with how much they had to push to show at CitizenCon and how that probably pushed them back on a few things? Because they did push out and show
Probably.
us a lot, and that's
Yeah.
And now with I think they're hoping, because I think you're right, and I think going off of what you're saying, I think the next step for them is now that all these teams are coming over from Squadron 42, they're hoping they can kind of pick up some of the tardiness, maybe.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I mean, that's understandable. I think anyone who's worked in a business with more than 10 people has seen that happen at some point. It's
Sure.
things that happened. But I think
Yeah. I'm not saying it's inexcusable. My point is they're talking about release dates. And for any of us who have played for any length of time, we know CIG does not keep to a calendar. They're just,
they
I mean,
have a very hard time.
yeah, to hold them to a deadline is sort of just, spitting in the wind. You're going to get back what you got out. So, I don't think that's happening. And I don't really care that, I mean, we were supposed to have 4.0 a week ago.
Yeah.
According to their previous
I'm glad
predictions,
you said that.
4.0 and Pyro were 2023. So for them to come out at the end of 2023 after CitizenCon and say, and here's when you can see 4.0, and it's like, no, not happening. I don't care so much about, and this is kind of the theme for really everything we talk about tonight. I don't care when they say it's coming out because I don't believe when they say it. And that's not the important part. The important part is, are we seeing progress on these things? And we are now, as of CitizenCon, we are seeing concrete visual progress on, okay, hair is coming, Star Engine is coming, base building is coming, Pyro is coming, server meshing is coming, replication, like all of these things. We're finally seeing it. It's not just an update in a jump point newsletter, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point because I think a lot of the skeptics, a
What
lot
are
of
the
the
release dates?
people, I don't, even Chris Roberts said it himself at the end of CitizenCon, his closing statement, like, I'm not going to say a
Yeah,
release date. You guys get mad at me. Yes, we do. Because, I
because you
mean,
lie.
we didn't, when you were doing an assignment at school, they didn't say, okay, we want it Friday. And then Friday's like, you know what? Actually, you will give you to 2, 3 weeks. You weren't done clearly. No, that doesn't happen. Like, release dates are a
Right.
thing. A calendar is a thing. Now, we you said they were overwhelmed. I agree, and there's a lot going on there. There's a lot they're trying to deliver. There's a lot of, there was a lot of criticism, and yeah, I think now some of the naysayers are maybe being quieted a little bit with since November to today, there's been a lot of releases. There's been a lot of, quality of life stuff that's come out. We've seen a lot of previews. I do like the new tech preview idea. I think that's not a bad thing, but you know, I think the question on everybody's hand is, on everybody's mind is always when, right? Because we can't believe their release date. So when is it going to come out? Is it going to be next year? A lot of people I'll bring up base building as, one of the things they
Sure.
talked about coming next year. One of the things I'm super excited about. I love base building games, games like Satisfactory and stuff like that. They're great. That coming into Star Citizen in such a huge, expansive world is such a plus. But when they made that announcement, the thing that ticked me off the most was we'll start work on it in Q1 of 2024. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so first of all, we can't believe that that's going to come out in 2024. There's no way.
Nope.
Absolutely no way. Especially with everything that we just saw he's announced for the first 6 months. Now,
But
yeah,
but 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 you have
yeah.
to take into account, we just saw, at least those of us with, Discords that have the leak channel, we did just see that there is an unconfirmed leak from a bar citizen that says the initial phase of base building comes in the first quarter. So
I-
that's another confusing thing, like you're talking about, where they said we're going to start work in Q1, and now we have a leak that could be unconfirmed, could be wrong, just flat out wrong. But now we have a leak saying that we're going to see it in a test channel. Like, okay, like how quick are you working on this? I don't buy
right.
it. One of those is not true.
Yeah, either
That's
you
what I'm saying.
started work on it before Q1 2024 or it's not what you're selling us. And I think I'm going to lean towards the latter and say, I
Yes.
think, remember bar citizen, the key word in bar citizen is bar. And we all know how people tend to maybe a little bit embellish when you are in one of these settings, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with,
Sure.
some friendly banter or some, hyping up of things once in a while. But I think what I take away from that is certain of the key systems are going to start to come into play. Maybe you'll start to be able to do more with cargo boxes, maybe some stuff like that. And I think also it'll be what might come into relation with persistent hangers.
I was just thinking that. I could see the persistent hangers, but see, that's another what's the deal with the timeline? Because
Yeah,
the technology that's going to enable base building is the dependent technology that is going to enable persistent hangers. It's server meshing, it's replicate. You can't have them without that tech, and that tech's not there yet. So how are they doing? Like, are we literally just Lego building, and then the moment we log out, the base is gone? Like, how is that a test of anything? You could do that internally.
true. And I think what one point they did mention, I'll have to go find the exact video, but they did mention that there's going to be potentially two versions of persistent hangers. One that would be within the verse, kind of, and then the other that would be an instanced one. on off of the server essentially. So I think what we'll see is that first one that's instanced, where
Okay.
it's not dependent on the server. But then that brings up another huge question mark, which I know there's a lot of cargo haulers out here. Exactly. um,
I have an org for that. Yeah, that's us.
what cargo elevators? Like, that's my huge question mark. Like with the
Yeah.
I think that those three things: base building, persistent hangars, and the cargo the cargo elevators, and how they're going to manage the unloading and unloading of cargo. That's huge because we saw the Hull C, and really that was an impressive ship. That
Have we
was cool.
though?
But that's exactly what I was going to say.
Have we though?
We've seen the ship. We can't see what it can do.
Right.
Like, we have a placeholder, which is great. But I mean, I've tried multiple times and gave up very quickly, but I was never able to pick up and then sell. Like, I don't think I ever completed a single buy sell, which is, you'd
I've
think
done one.
one. Well, that's impressive.
Done one. Yep.
Like, congratulations. There should be
Yeah.
a Spectrum badge for that.
I know,
But
right?
I mean, yeah, that for me, cargo elevators is a huge question mark. And yeah, and I think when it comes to timeline, I think the best way to go into this year is let's just see what happens. I think the first
Yeah.
3 months are gonna be super key, and I'm not expecting anything until March, maybe end of February.
Yeah, I'm one of these people where, and I think, and I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I'm one of these people where I go into Star Citizen every time I log in and every time I talk about it, I go into Star Citizen thinking it's still the coolest game I've ever played. It's still arguably the most beautiful game I've ever played. And if I don't get a feature that wasn't promised to me to begin with, how mad should I be? Probably not much.
Right.
Like I'm rolling with the punches. I play the game because I agreed the moment I started my account, and every time I make a pledge, I agree that this may change, this could fail. Chris Roberts could literally run away with all $600 million tomorrow.
Yep.
And I agreed to that.
Yeah. That's super important to remember too, and note this is an
Yeah.
alpha, and hey, people hate that sometimes, and I get it because it gets frustrating, and I can understand it, especially for those that
Sure.
have been in the game for 5+ years,
Oh yeah.
where it's hard to see a game be an alpha that long. But I think right now the current state of the game industry is proving that what's going on with CIG isn't that crazy. There are other games that have come out recently or that are coming out that say they've had a similar timeline in development, but there's nowhere near the same fidelity when it comes to graphics and I don't necessarily, because Starfield always seems to come up in these discussions. I don't recently, but I'm going to use Starfield real quick, and that's a project that they said was about 8 years of development. They said that they've had the idea for 25 years, but that doesn't count. You can have an
No.
idea 50 years ago. Jules Verne had some crazy ideas, but we
Right.
didn't see that become a reality for a while. And so let's say about 7 to 8 years in development. Well, we didn't see something crazy in terms of change, in terms of advancement in technology or features. We saw more of the same Bethesda with more or less success, but tons of content to come with the game. And if for me, then the argument can be made, well, was the trade-off, more of the same but more content, or is it more of something unknown, never seen before, which is typically what we see in Star Citizen? And is that the trade-off? Because you're right, every time I log into that game, within the first 5 minutes, I'm just like, wow, this is so
Yeah.
pretty. So
Yeah.
pretty. Like,
Love
nothing
this
else
game. Yeah.
makes me feel like that. And what I think Star Citizen does incredibly well is make you feel small, but in a good way. Like, I'm a tiny little piece of
Yeah.
straw in this big, huge haystack, and I can go anywhere over here and look at anything. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's anything to do there, but
Oh, we're talking about Starfield again?
No, that was even Star Citizen. People
We're
made that
landing on a
argument
planet, there's
against.
nothing to do there? Got it, Starfield.
But I mean, that argument was made against Starfield, but you could levy that argument against Star Citizen, where there's not that much more to do either. I guess for me, the big leg up that Star Citizen would have in that specific instance is that you can go there with buddies and create your own fun through whatever you're doing. Or because you were a bad boy and you have a crad site, somebody's coming after you. Now this barren area becomes a battleground, or it becomes, a place to hide. And I think that's really well done. And so, yeah, yes, we are making an alpha. And that's the thing, is we're making it with them in the sense that you are here as part of the roller coaster. And I think that's why some of the devs tend to really enjoy the Bar Citizens and stuff like that, because they see people who appreciate their work for a lot of the time. And I know this people talk about, oh, Star Citizen community is kind of toxic. I mean, really not compared to a lot of them. They were
No.
super tame, really nice people for the most part. And this is something that I used to tell people a lot, which is some of these games have really steep learning curves or very hard times for you to get into them, right? Star Citizen is kind of like that. Unless you know somebody who's already owns the game, navigating the first 2 hours of your gameplay is rather difficult. That kept me from playing twice. I tried once, stuck with it for a week, couldn't really get anywhere.
Wow.
Came back a couple
I didn't know
months
that.
later. Yeah, it came back a couple months later, tried, couldn't really get anywhere. But this is where I told people this was a mistake. That's because I was not a very social person and very active on global. The second I started being vocal on global and asking for help, I immediately received it. Like, there was no delay. It was, hey, can somebody help me with this? Yeah, where are you? I'll come help you. Like, so I'll send you a friend invite. Let's party up. Do you know how to use VoIP? Like, and immediately the game took a completely different turn for me and became this incredible experience where, yeah, now I'm really enjoying everything that's going on. So to kind of get back on track to your point, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm okay with not
Well,
having
let's be fair.
everything.
I didn't have a point. I rarely do.
That's
We
not
were
true.
just talking about fun things.
Good thing. Okay.
We're just
But
amazed at how beautiful the game is. That's where we left off. Just,
wow, like this, like the
wow.
big starry eyes, like every time
Yeah,
you go in.
exactly. But no, I like it goes back to that issue of I have very low expectations, but they're not negative expectations. It's not like I have low expectations because I expect failure. I have low expectations because I agreed to have low expectations when I started, and I'm aware. And I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine, talking about these games that go into development, and I have to mention this today, because I literally just posted it on, I think it was X, like an hour ago. Um, the Steam Awards, Starfield won Innovative Game of the Year. How? Like, I cannot comprehend how Starfield, and I love Starfield. I think it's beautiful. I think it's fun. I had a great time with the stories. I like Starfield. But for Starfield to win Innovative Game, I'm like, it's the same game. It is
So
not. It's
that's
the same engine, it's the same gameplay, cool stories, pretty pictures, but innovative? No. Like, it, sorry, there were so many other more innovative games, but whatever. It, Star Citizen is an innovative game. Star Citizen is building an engine from scratch. Star Citizen is building the render system from scratch. Star Citizen, all of these things that CIG is doing, that's the alpha.
that
A
is
space game is not the alpha.
no. It is,
It's like,
yeah.
anyway, so yeah,
We are the
it's just,
building blocks of something greater and truly next gen. Like I
yeah,
don't know if you played console anytime recently, but I didn't even bother going from PS4 to PS5. I just stopped with the PS4 and went straight PC because what I saw being touted as next gen was clearly not. It was more of the same. And I think that's one of the things first of all, I can't believe that's insane. Anyways, that brings up a big whole other debate on whether bots are a thing on stream or not, on Steam or not. But anyways,
well,
but
yeah, that's like the
that's
whole
like,
thing. I'm just
oh,
because Starfield won innovative game and Red Dead Redemption 2 won labor of love, and I'm like, no,
the year
no.
they announced
Rockstar
that they're
gave up on
stopping
that game.
online.
Literally gave up on the game and said we're not doing anything anymore. And you give that studio the labor of love award? They've literally told you we don't give a shit.
Steam is
Like,
just
come on,
proving that it's
really?
just a bunch of trolls at this point. Like maybe they're getting a huge laugh out of it. I mean, that's
Maybe.
hilarious. But
But anyway, so that goes back to that Star Citizen is an alpha because everything it's designing is an alpha. It's not just an alpha game, it's an alpha platform.
and I
So,
think that's the keyword platform.
yeah, whatever time they're gonna take is the time they're gonna take, and I mean, I guess we can close the conversation by simply saying the deadlines are really immaterial. Whether they're self-imposed or community imposed, the deadlines are superfluous. Who cares?
Yeah.
They're going to get the stuff when they build it, and hopefully, if people stick around, hopefully we're there to enjoy it and really be amazed by what they create. If not, it's 318 all over again, and we're just gonna look at it and get frustrated, you know?
But then again, let's look at 318 because we can use that to tie into the things that we're seeing next because that was the first iteration of the very first building blocks of server meshing, and that was in persistent entity streaming, which was very impressive. Now that is that is tech that exists already in other games, but the way they're trying to build it on a server like that is persistent for all of us to go to at all times, which is going to bring the meshing in of these other servers. I mean, just to wrap your brain around exactly what's going to happen with all that is hilarious and gives me a headache sometimes. But
Yeah.
it it's crazy. So yeah, 318 was a giant piece of flaming frustration, and I'm actually looking back at it, I'm actually okay with it. And I think I've made my peace with that time because actually that's the time where, like I was just saying, I managed to discover the community. So even though there was all these hard things going on in the game, other people, the desire to learn and explore more of this world, this solar system, yeah, that kept me going throughout all the issues of 318. Now, did that make life fun necessarily? No. Made things rather miserable. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with give us the tech, let us get through the bugs. Let's figure out these hurdles. Let's keep moving. Let's build this platform because the reality is this game is being built. Star Citizen is being built to last another 10 years. For me, it is going to be the true successor, the next generation successor to what a World of Warcraft accomplished, where that game's been around for 20 years,
Yeah.
going off the same platform, something they built so well that they were able to just continue to grow it. And I see something similar for Star Citizen, where they're giving us all the building blocks. There's never truly going to be an end to development because there's always a new star system they can come out with. There's always a new settlement. There's always a new mission type they'll be able to throw out. There's always a new ship to make. There's always a new event they can have
Oh,
that
wait,
they'll be
wait,
able
we have enough
to.
ships. They can stop with the ships. Let them finish the ones they've promised.
That's true. But I did see that you brought up the merchantmen earlier on your Discord, and
I brought it up on Discord. Aristavo has brought it up here on chat. And please do your job as a host and recognize Greg for making a reference to Lord Elrond. Please do. Just
oh, he did.
give.
Oh,
He did,
thank you, Matt
right?
Greg. He knows I pay attention most of the
Matt
time.
Gregg is over there making Lord Elrond references, and I think that deserves recognition. Just saying. Anyway.
Him and I have discussed that multiple times, and we
No,
both agree.
I am very much I do have to cut that sentence off because they have made so many ship promises, some of which we will never see. And I say that as an owner of a merchantman, I fully expect to never see that ship. But I've got cool loaners, so I'm okay with that. But like you know, that's one of those things where you've made a promise as a game dev, as a studio, you've told us that these things are going to get made. Not only that, but you've sold the promise. If you tell us about server meshing, I don't care. I'm not paying more for server meshing. I did pay for the merchantman.
Yeah.
You know, people have paid for a pioneer. People have paid for a you know like a merchantman. People have paid for a javelin. People have paid for all these fucking ships that we're never going to see. And it's like, all right, no, now what? Like, so no, there's not always another ship they could make because they need to finish the ones they freaking promised us.
That's a good point. And that's something that I've become vocal on is if you guys feel like you need to spend your money on a ship, that's fine. But just spend money on the ship that already exists. Unless you're looking for some really cool loaners, which that's the only reason why I'm not gonna lie. I've been debating whether to do the step up to the Galaxy. My first TBD ship.
The Carrick loaner.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
exactly. Carrick and Sierra Expedition,
Yeah.
which I'm all for. But I
Mhm.
have a really big problem with paying money for something that doesn't exist. Like, I don't go put money down on cars that might come out in 3 years or something like that. There's very little in real life that we go and buy before it comes out.
I was gonna say everybody who ordered a Cybertruck just left the chat.
I mean, I was one of those guys way back in the day where I had to actually put my name down on a list and small deposit to potentially get a Volkswagen Golf R when they would come out and be
Oh,
available in the US in like, and this is back in like 2010, this is a long time ago.
yes, Lord
So
Elrond was there. Yep.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, but those are very rare occurrences. Anyways, to go back to the whole ship sales thing, I don't have a big problem with ship sales, but I do have a big problem with selling things that aren't in the game yet. And I do hear you. I think the Merchantman will actually make it in probably in 3 years, but the one I'm most worried about is never seeing is the Endeavor, unless we
I was
seriously
gonna
get
say, yeah, Aristavo said Endeavor has entered the chat.
exactly, and
Mhm.
he nailed it. Like the Endeavor is that ship. There's the modularity is, I guess, what sums it up. Is when does that come in? And that's something we haven't really talked about in 2024 from them.
Because it's
Limited
not on their
info.
list.
Yeah.
It's not on their list at all. They didn't mention it in any of this stuff, but they have a problem because you've got the 600, which is modular. You've got the Galaxy, which is modular. You've got the
Carrick,
I want to say the Apollo, but that's not it.
Carrick,
Yeah, I mean, the Endeavor. You've
Caterpillar.
got, I mean, yeah, you've got
Yeah.
all of these things that are supposed to be modular, but the tech doesn't exist. I had to explain to people that the 600i was a modular ship. They're like, no, it's not. I was like, yes, it is. Go read it. It
Yes.
flat out tells you can
It
swap
is.
out the Explorer with the Touring it's the center comes out. Like, that's how it
Yeah.
functions. When are we ever gonna see these things, though? Because if we don't, there's a whole list of ships that you're never gonna get.
Right. And I think that just brings up the question of, well, what's truly dependent on what? And I think CIG either potentially purposely haven't communicated exactly what that is because they themselves are still kind of figuring out the in-between pieces, which is I'm okay with that. Like we've
Sure.
said, they're trying to create something completely new. There's going to be a lot of unknown. There's going to be trial and error 318, and there's going to be some hardships 318.
Yep.
So and then or 319 and no
Or
inventory or
319, yeah,
yeah,
it's
and my biggest thing, and I know two people in my community who really had a big issue with this, but not being able to load into your account for 3 weeks, that was a rough one. But yeah,
it
anyways,
was.
that's 2023 and we're looking forward to the future of 2024.
See,
um
what they were experiencing was the modularity of account persistence. Turns out their accounts were modular and they had been uninstalled. They
exactly.
went down to Cousin Crows and the accounts were removed and they didn't have a replacement. So it's just it was a modular
we
account
have
system that's working as intended.
It was just a
Yeah.
delete. It was an error, and it was like, we have no record of your transaction. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like,
But I
but
think
no,
that once they get some of the persistence and the server meshing, I think that can in some ways open the door for modularity because what they've talked about is what I've seen about the system is that you're going to go to, let's say, a Cousin Crows. I always recognize Cousin Crows as like my, that's my chop shop. That's like, that's where I get my car parts. Um, you go down to Cousin Crows, you drop off the ship and the module or modules, and you basically leave it there for we don't know 2 minutes, 2 hours, who the hell knows what it is. Bro will do his thing, swap out your ship, and then it'll be ready. Is there gonna be a waiting room? Are they gonna serve coffee and donuts?
well,
The middle parts are what we don't know.
for that we need a working coffee machine, and we don't have that yet either.
That's
Uh,
true. So, coffee and Banu popcorn. I don't know, but something. Give us things. Maybe we can all play dice games. But whatever. Those
yeah,
are the kind of things where I think that could be a 2024 thing. But as you talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, it's concerning that they haven't said anything.
it is,
So
and
yeah,
I mean, I know that it was, I think, briefly mentioned at CitizenCon, but no more than that. Thank you, by the way. Uh, appreciate that. Sake Jaden, thank you. Sake Jaden, what's up?
Saki. Hey, what's up, Saki?
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
It used to be it's King Jaden.
Now it's
Now it's
Sake.
Saki Jaden. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome in.
Welcome
We'll
in,
call you
Jaden.
King. But yeah, no, I
Yeah, no,
mean,
right?
so, you know, server meshing. Do we actually? Okay, let's just talk about this for a second because this is super 2024.
Yep.
What are the chances of us seeing that actually by July? Because that's what he's saying is, summer 2024. Maybe let's just say, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say, do we think by the first week of September? Now, well, I'm talking about in the live version.
Chat, chat, be with me on this one, please. Let's all focus here for a second, okay? Chat, it's just me and you for a minute. I don't think Letired was listening to the part about deadlines. I think he ignored the whole conversation about just not caring when they come out. We're just going to be impressed with do they come out. And he's over here asking about July. I don't think he got it. Here,
No,
the
I
tired.
hear you.
Here's the
I hear you.
Who cares? It's going to show up. I don't know. I do think that we're probably going to see it by July because it looked like at CitizenCon, it looked like they had made some really serious advances. There were some glitches. I mean, even in their demo, it got pointed out. People were like, that thing you said is there is actually there. Like there's issues, but I think they've made some really good progress. I thought we saw some really cool stuff at SitCon. Could it be July? Yeah, I think it could be. Because if it's not July, they're so far off the timeline. Like they're
Yeah.
half of what they said will come in 2024 will not arrive. It has
And
it's a dependent technology.
and that really, I think that really drives the point of what you were saying of if we didn't mention it and they just went straight to, oh, by the way, Pyro this summer, they truly are
Yeah.
probably very behind. And is now that could be because of what's coming over from Squadron 42, stuff like that.
Mhm.
CitizenCon with all the push they did, Maelstrom and the Star Engine, which I'm incredibly excited for.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about Maelstrom. Jeez.
No, because okay, so one of my favorite things in games since I was a tiny kid was destroying everything around me.
Yeah.
And Red Faction was the first one for me that blew my mind when I played that game, and everything was just destructible and awesome, and it was great.
Yeah.
That that is something I'm truly looking forward to, and that, kind of to go with what you were just saying, I'm okay with things not coming right this second. Now, what I won't be okay with is if it's like a wasteland of content until then, which I don't think it will be. I think everything coming over from Squadron will be nice, but I think those will be mainly quality of life, different content and content in terms of
Yeah.
like armors, guns, that kind of stuff. I'm talking more about I need some new missions, I need something new to go do, or I need something to be elaborated on that I've already been able to do. I'm not going to say data running
Yeah.
because they didn't even mention that either.
I can give you an example from my previous world of Sea of Thieves. A lot of the community got bored with Sea of Thieves because it's the same thing again and again and again. Even their new quote unquote their new voyages, it's basically a reskin of the old voyage.
Really?
It's like, you're digging up a red gem now, wink, wink. And it's like, okay, like
Yeah.
the green gem was fine. I don't need a red gem. Like nobody cared, so it became an issue. But yes, I was going to ask you to elaborate on what you meant by content, but you're right. I think we need to see some other things flushed out. Like, I would like to use my MSR for real data missions, real one, like big
Yeah.
data. Like, let me put some servers to work. Let me, let's have a working claw in the reclaimer.
Yeah.
Because trust me, that claw is not going to get used for salvage. That claw is going to get used to pick up other players.
Yes.
Like, we
Exactly.
need to see
Or
these
try to
things.
reach into a space station to grab somebody out of the hangars. So yeah, it'll
Yeah, exactly.
people are going to get
Yeah.
really creative, and that will be fantastic. I am actually looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But so to your point, I think that that's the kind of content that needs to get flushed out while they work on the foundational tech of the future. We still need new things to do with our very old ships.
Yes.
It's like give us some of those things, and please don't create another ship that does exactly what the other ships do, and I can't do anything new in them either. You know,
Yeah.
like the only saving grace, and I will not buy one. I have to give Aristavo credit. I won the ship from him because he did it as a giveaway. I won it from Aristavo, but my only saving grace for the Sulin was the new piloting capabilities, the new literal aerodynamics of it. Like that was where I looked at the Siulin and I was like, that's cool. You know, it's a new mechanic, it's a new way to fly, it's a new technology, it's a new vision. Great. So it's got to have other stuff though. Like there's needs to be other, like you said,
Now,
content
yeah,
while they do other stuff.
and I like what Chad's already talking about, with refueling, for example. I think it's a mix of fixing some of the things that should
Yes.
work already
Yes, yes, yes.
and adding things to do. And you know, I I'll just put this out there. I don't know if it's necessarily
Hey mods, go kill
mission
somebody.
chains. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if actually, I think I have
I
to
don't
do
know.
that.
I haven't seen a mod. I haven't seen a sword yet, but go
Yeah,
kill somebody.
I think all my mods are sleeping.
Murder
Uh
them.
but all right, well I handle this. No, I think do we think that maybe mission quest lines are something that would fix it? Do we think that it's maybe a new type of mission? Maybe it's around mining, maybe it's around salvage, maybe it's combining some of those different things that we already have. Like, what is
Sure.
something that you think would be good in terms of content that wouldn't necessarily break their back with everything else that they're trying to deliver us?
Okay. The way you ended that question is the key part. I don't know what's easiest for them to finish right now. I don't know what's easiest for them to iterate right now. So, as Chad is talking about, refueling would be natural because it should have existed already and it kind of does, but it's broken. The Hull C should be easy to fix. For my limited game dev knowledge, for my limited knowledge of how Star Citizen exists and functions, I would think the Hull C is a fix. Um, Data, we have data missions now, but like two, one, like there's not a whole lot of diversity to it. So, all of could they just iterate those or complete those loops? I would think so, but I'm not sure if it's true. I would love to see some of those things. I would love to see more true exploration. I think there could be a very easy to build, go find this thing on Daymar. I think that would be something that is a doable um new opportunity that is just an exploration game loop. It's not a bunker, it's not a racetrack, it's not a ship to ship mission, it's not PvP, it's not PV. It's literally you're going to get a map. It's an old, treasure hunt. You're
Yeah.
going to get a map and you have to go find this thing. You will have people flying around for hours, if they gave a really complicated but fun map or set of riddles to that Pico cave, I promise you server traffic would jump 10%.
Yeah. That's actually a great point. Treasure hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could be I can't. That's awesome. That's actually an awesome idea because that could be the very first iteration of exploration that you would
That's what I'm
truly
saying.
get to
It's
do.
easy to
Like
build.
that can't be that difficult, right? Like
Oh,
you've thrown Jalonite that apparently exists in the game that I've seen people use and have, but I've never seen it. That's in caves, so how hard would it be to even just have a quest where it's go find some Jalonite? You know what I mean? Or
right. That
like
exactly.
like just I mean, yeah, so actually yeah, I'm really happy I asked that because I think that's a great answer. Like it's true. There's obviously a bunch of question marks on, well, okay, well, what can you guys actually deliver us? And then
Mhm.
there's, well, how hard would it be for you guys to give us, yeah, something that's truly going to make us go explore? Because that's only good for them as developers as well, because now you have more people going to every single area of your game
Yes.
to find more bugs, to find more issues to fix down the line.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's a winner in that situation. So actually, yeah, I'm really happy that I asked that because I do like that answer a lot, and yeah, it's
And I do. I think it touches back on the original topic of, what are our expectations? What are deadlines? Because I think we need to expect evolutions, not revolutions right now. Let
absolutely.
them work on the revolutions. I would rather them take the time to figure out server meshing as opposed to saying, okay, 3.24 is here and we have server meshing, and all of us are reliving 318 again. And
Yes.
it's like, no, you don't, and this sucks. Stop rushing crap.
And they've told
Um,
us they're going to slow down and tone down, or I think split up the rollout of that a bit more to help combat that nightmare that we had to live through.
Okay, then let's take a second to talk about something that is going to be critical, and that is how many test channels will exist?
That's a great question.
Because honestly, I'm kind of losing my mind with the 5 we have. Like we had basically 3. You had live, PTU, and Evocati.
Yeah.
Now you've got live, PTU, ePTU, testing channel, preview channel, 6 and Evocati. You've got at least 6 different layers of testing, which and I don't know how much you are familiar with that part of Star Citizen Dev because I'm not. But from what I've heard from a lot of different sources, a lot of people that are in there, they're not that busy to begin with. So why are we fracturing them even more?
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of lost on that. It's like if you weren't getting enough data to roll out a functional product to begin with, like the whole C, if you weren't getting enough test data, why are you splitting people up into even smaller test groups? Like, how are you getting any usable data? I mean, clearly they are. I have to trust that they're smarter than I am, but I just don't understand. Like, why are there 6 test channels now? You've doubled it. I don't get it.
So, okay, that's a good point because and I made this point in the last podcast, which was I really hate and was super frustrated with the wave system. I think it was bad. I think it goes against
Oh,
the
that's
development of
right.
their game. I think
Mm.
it goes I think it goes in the wrong direction, and it's exactly what you just said is too little too few people in smaller groups testing out the game. Now,
Yeah.
now is the new form of that these 5 different channels, 6 different channels? I hope not. But I will say that having the game installed 5 times on your computer is really rough. Um,
Especially at 89 gigs a pop.
yeah, and that's before it turned up to like 95, 98.
Yeah. And then,
So
yeah.
like
Yep.
it's like so and so I recently just went through and I was like, wait, why do I still have ePTU and Tech Preview on my computer? Phoom. Oh my, that's 250 gigs, along with screenshots and stuff like that that I had already bounced off to other stuff. Like, wow, I can breathe again. That's insane. Yeah, that that it's just frustrating, I think, to a certain extent to have to
But,
deal with. But
again, talking about 4.0, or 4.0, 2024 specifically,
yeah,
let's just what's coming. All of these require significant test periods. There
yes,
is no part of this tech, I mean, literally any tech we talk about tonight is so dependent on effective testing because I don't trust their internal testing systems. And that's what we're all here for. We all signed up to be testers, not players.
yes.
We are testing the game. So, that being the case, if they're breaking us up into these tiny groups and one out of those 6 groups is now broken up into waves, it's like, are you really getting the data you need or are you getting the server load you want? And I think there's a difference pretty
I
often.
think that's an interesting question with the terms of the server load, because
I'm
at the end of the
quoting,
year,
hold on, I'm quoting, who am I quoting? I'm quoting somebody. I'm quoting Aristava who said, I think they did it to spread out the initial server loading.
which makes sense,
Just giving credit, just giving credit. Credit is
and I will gladly hear that argument. The only problem is when you hide that behind paywalls sometimes.
paywalls. Oh yeah, it
Yep,
was a pay to
straight up
play.
paywalls, and that becomes pay to play, and then that becomes really annoying because you're kind of feeding into all these people who, and I hate using this term with Star Citizen now, scam, because well now they're more focused on giving you these assets rather than a full game. Or sorry, not assets, but breaking up your playtime by how much you're
Yeah.
willing to spend on assets on the game itself to have access to that broken test. No, I'm kidding. That's me just being really negative. But the
Yeah.
reality is waves don't work. And I think they realized that towards the end of the year when it wasn't so much waves as it was just everybody has access to this, you can play it now. But then like you said, okay, that's great, but now you have split over 5 channels. You have a net channel that's active that no one's using, that you guys aren't even testing anything on, but it's still there. Why haven't you taken it down? I think the
Mhm.
EPTU at one point was up for a while, and there was nothing going on with it. Everything had already swapped over to PTU, and then there was a tech
Yeah.
preview, I think. So it's just got very confusing, and that can be frustrating for players who want to try that out, but don't take the time like us, because we're content creators in the game, to go learn a bit more about everything. And that's the thing, is
Yeah.
not everybody's willing to do a ton of research
But
to
that's also part of the
yeah,
problem. You just touched on a core issue and their timing was terrible.
yeah,
In the same time frame, you not only had this ridiculous wave system that was pay to play, 100% undeniable pay to play. It was the same time as you also had this new gold ticket F8 Lightning blah blah blah. That whole thing, everybody was perceived, okay, everybody perceived it to favor the top tier content creators who are all, Praetorian, Legatus, whatever they are. They've all got these boatloads of fleets of ships. Um, and it's just like you're not helping the scam allegations because you're totally favoring the people that have paid you the most money. Now, I will say, for me as a content creator, for me as a backer, it doesn't actually bother me. They do have to make money. They're paying devs. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. I think the visuals of it were terrible. I
yeah.
think that the visuals of it made them look bad. I think it didn't look good to the player base. It didn't look good to the critics. Everything was just sort of you've got all these pieces that are all saying pay us or don't have fun. And that was garbage.
Or pay us or don't pay us and wait.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
just
Like I said,
patiently yeah.
you don't pay us, you don't have fun. But when you
Yeah.
pay us, give us more money.
I
So
think it's
yeah,
like you
the
said, there's a
timing I think was
reality of,
bad.
and there's a reality of just trying to fund a project. We know they've received, I think the reports are 100 to 150 million in investments, and true investments that didn't come from backers. And
Is it
that's
that high,
fine.
really? Hmm,
But somewhere between 100 to 150 million was the last
okay.
time I heard that number. I'll have to go double check and
But
push
that's
that
a
up in the
big chunk
Discord.
of 600. I mean, if
But no,
that's the
but that
case,
actually
you're
that's above the 600. So that pushes them to 750.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Then I
then
don't know that
so,
number. Okay.
so then we're actually getting closer to the billion than we think. I'm okay with that, because I want this project to succeed. I want this project to show that with enough ambition and enough skill and dedication from a good team of people, you can achieve something truly incredibly new and create the wing commander of the new generation.
Well, okay. There's a problem though. You just talked about skill, and I'm on the show, so I have to check out now.
Well, I mean, I'm here too,
Um,
so it's fine,
because I don't
But
have
two
any.
negatives make a positive, right? So
Yeah, my whole chat is sitting there going, he doesn't have any skill. What are we doing?
I mean, you've
Yeah.
seen me fly, I hit things. So quite often.
You've
Um
seen me fly, I hit things. Take the word low out of that. It's still true for me. What do
which
you mean
makes it
there's a space station? Oh, look. Yeah.
which makes it
Anyway.
even better that you're in the low flight network. It's just so special.
I
But
know, right?
it's like me being a
Low
part of a dogfighting network. Like, that guy can fight? I
literally
don't know. That's the first news I
literally
heard.
I was part of the low fly network to help Bigfoot test server features.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't even think they'd invite me.
Stavo just brought up something that I was not proud of when it happened. He was nice enough one day while I was streaming to be like, "Hey, you want to check out the house?" He was like, "Absolutely," and I rushed there a little too quickly without paying attention, and
What were you flying?
I forget. I was in something big that didn't get out of the way fast enough. Um,
Ah, okay, got it.
and he was in something big that couldn't get out of the way fast enough, and
Okay.
it just it didn't work. Well, yeah, things were bad, but
Okay, but
um,
so let's
yeah,
flop this back over
yeah,
to
yeah.
2024. So you and I fly fast and we hit things. So let's talk about, the physicalized destruction. That's a feature that's coming. Red faction, we're gonna blow stuff up. We're gonna cause destruction and chaos and carnage. Um, when are we going to see that? I would bet that's also first half of the year. I think that we're already getting parts of that. So I think that part is probably going to be on schedule. I think that we are going to see that. And I think it's going to represent a whole lot of, I think it's going to be a new level of what has been called basically screenshot simulator. I think we're going to see a lot more content, a lot more adventures, you know, whether they're staged or otherwise. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more clips, a lot more fun adventures that
Yeah,
people are doing utilizing this technology. So I think that's going to represent a really cool step in this year.
I think so too. And with that, I think it's a good time to actually take a little break to grab some water, use the restroom, and give us 5 minutes, people, and we will be right back. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks for the subs, everyone. Thanks for the gifted subs. Sorry, I've been loving this conversation, so I've been a little neglectful of chat, but that's okay. They'll forgive me.
And
Hopefully.
I want to thank everybody who came in from the PJ Party community. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for hanging
Yes.
out with us tonight. We will see you as soon as we come back.
As soon as we come back, these special messages.